truck's right up there behind us. Behind the mound.
No.
Let's do it so we're facing it.
Okay, all right. That's fine. You can do a race before you.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you can all hear back there. Welcome to Dalton's Memorial Day ceremony. My name is Tom Callahan, and on behalf of Dalton American Legion, it is an honor to serve as Master of Ceremonies today and to represent Post 155. This year marks the sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary of this holiday. Indeed, the most solemn of our country's 11 national holidays. It began in 1868 as a tribute to the approximate 620,000 lives lost in the Civil War. The ceremony is to remember and honor all Americans who made the supreme sacrifice while serving in the armed forces of the United States, as well as those who have and are currently serving. We dedicate today to the citizens of Dalton who died in the service of our country. The invocation today will be given by Reverend Christopher Malatesta, pastor of St. Agnes Parish.
Good morning. Good and gracious God, we gather in remembrance and thankfulness of the men and women of our nation who have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms. Before the picnics and barbecues, help us remember and honor these heroes who have walked before us and have sacrificed so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we celebrate. From the beginning of our country to the world wars, to the conflicts in the Middle East and throughout the world, our military men and women have defended our freedom for other Americans that they don't even know or would have never met. These heroes have paid a price that can never be repaid. Only grateful hearts and prayer can express our thanks. For so many comrades and families, this is a somber day. It is a day to remember and reflect on loved ones lost. Our country, while still occupied in war, must pray for protection of those who serve and are in constant danger. Let us pray for peace to our world so that we can live in security and comfort. And let us know a time when parents won't have to grieve the loss of their children and our families will not have to endure the absence of their loved ones because of their service to country. Let us never forget, and let this prayer today inspire us. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Chris. The Wacona Regional High School Band, which, by the way, did a fantastic job while marching, directed by Mr. Brian Rebuse, will now perform the national anthem. Very well done. Thank you. Legion Commander Robert Dassett will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob. In addition to Reverend Malatesta and Commander Dassett, I am honored to introduce Memorial Day Parade Marshal and special guest, Mr. Tyrone Bellinger. Dalton Veterans of Foreign Wars Commander David Vautrin is here. Our student orators, Gabby Hinckley, and Lucas Walsh. Dalton Town Manager Ken Walto, and Select Board members Bob Bishop, Chairman John Bartels, and John Boyle. Selectmen Mark Strout and Ned Holick are at previous commitments. We are glad to have with us again this year State Representative Paul Mark. The Memorial Day Committee consists of Bob Dassett, Commander Dassett, who's chairman, Jim Harris, Jim Slater, the father and son team of George and Corey White, and myself. I know on the Whites that each of them, father and son, have put in 40 years on this Memorial Day Committee. I had to ask at a meeting a few weeks ago how Corey put in 40 years. And the answer was that Father George took him to his first meeting when he was 10 years old to help. And he started bringing him ever since, so our hats off to both of them. On behalf of our community, we extend to all elected, appointed, and volunteer personnel our sincere appreciation for your dedication, enthusiasm, and achievements that without doubt add so much to maintaining our community as a very desirable place to live. This program includes the Prisoner of War Missing in Action ceremony. This was started by the National League of Families organization, which was formed soon after the end of the Vietnam War in 1974. The express purpose of this organization was and is today to keep active all efforts to account for those who were imprisoned and or missing in action during any military conflict or operation that our armed forces have been involved with, and whose fates, of course, are unknown. Since World War I, that number exceeds 138,000 personnel missing. The 5 branches of the military use the same ceremony we will observe in a moment. Our nation's president annually declares the 3rd Friday in September as National POW MIA Recognition Day. In 1989, Congress officially recognized the organization ceremony and adopted the POW MIA flag. Today's ceremony will be performed by Mr. Peter Morrissey, a Navy veteran and member of Legion Post 155. Assisting him is Commander Dassett.
Those who served and those currently serving in the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. Before we begin our activities, we pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. This is in remembrance of all the POWs and MIAs who have served their country to know that they are never forgotten. We call your attention to this small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from the ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families. So we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood that they have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents the ribbons worn on the lapels of the thousands who demand, with unyielding determination, a proper account of our comrades who are not among us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifice. All of you who served with them and call them comrades, you who depend on their might and aid and relied upon them. Do not forsake them, pray for them, and remember them. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families.
Well done, men. Thank you. On the matter of unaccounted personnel, there are several federal and private organizations whose mission it is to find information on, and when possible, claim the remains of the missing and return all info as well as remains to respective families. As difficult a task as this is, thanks to advances in acquiring information, science, and the dedication of people, a surprising number of remains are returned every year, including those from the First World War. Once again, we are fortunate to have wreath bearers participate in this ceremony. They are directed by Hinsdale Troop number 12957, leaders Tammy Cachet and Lisa Orsini. Placing the wreaths are Riley Cachet, Olivia Orsini, and Riley Vonberg. You may place the wreaths right now, ladies. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Wendy Brown for information and help on this matter this year. The roll call of Dalton's military personnel who made the supreme sacrifice will be read by Commander Dassett, which will be followed by the traditional rifle salute carried out by the American Legion Firing Squad accompanied by taps, performed by Wacona band member Kevin Huban.
Okay, this is in memory of those from Dalton who gave their lives in the service of our country. World War I, Benjamin F. Sullivan, George N. Smith, Raymond P. Nichols, Augustus Mazzanti, Valentine A. Cormier, Joseph H. McCrae, Wyndon A. Allen. World War II, Frederick D. Bentley, Everett A. Carter, Elwin G. Bowden, Anthony J. DeAngelis, Norman E. Norton, Albert A. Farrell Jr., James H. Gallagher, Herbert R. Messenger, Charles H. Watkins Jr., Harry H. Rudd. Korean War, James B. Couch, Leon J. Stratton Jr. Vietnam War, Patrick J. Maraca, Michael J. Casey, Gary T. Benjamin. Afghanistan, Sergeant Mitchell Dowling. Spanish American, Harry W. Smith, Richard Dowling, Joseph Quill. Civil War, Alman Cady, Abram Bigwood, Albert Griswold, Anthony Newton Jr., Charles A. Smith, Cedero Gloyd. And that is the end of our list. And if anybody has names that should be on here, well, I'm only going by what the Historical Commission gives to me. So we have added Mitchell Dowling, and there may be others, but unless I hear from them, I can't put it on the list. So I thank you.
Thank you to all involved. To Kevin Huban, an excellent playing of taps. Thank you. Today we have two students with us to present their views on this holiday. Miss Gabrielle Hinckley, or Gabby, was with us last year and so joins the ranks of several former students who have participated twice. Gabby's parents are attorney Michael and Maureen Hinckley of Dalton. The family includes her brother Michael and Labrador Retriever Miles. Gabby attended St. Agnes School and is a senior at Miss Hall's School, where she is an honor roll student, achieving straight A's this year. Her activities include participating in community service organizations such as area soup kitchens, food drive collections, and the Salvation Army kettle collections. She is involved in youth athletic coaching and peer mentor leadership programs. Other activities are dance, operetta, arts camp, basketball, and volleyball. Gabby will attend the University of New Hampshire this fall to major in history with a minor in either women's studies or political science. Her maternal grandfather, Dan O'Brien, served with the U.S. Marines in Vietnam, as did her paternal stepfather, the late Bill Smith. It is an honor to again present Miss Gabby Hinckley.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan, for that introduction. And thank you for all being here today. I am deeply honored to be here with you, commemorating the sacrifices of those military men and women who have laid down their lives in service of this great country. I'll be honest, when beginning to write this speech, I kept drawing blanks. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't sure how to capture the magnitude and importance of this day. At the same time, I wanted to make sure that, in speaking, I was doing my very best to properly pay homage to those we remember today. So I decided to do some more research on Memorial Day. I hope to learn, to expand my knowledge, and to try to come to a deeper understanding of just how significant this day is. Fortunately, in doing that research and in thinking more about it, I did learn, and I consider it a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to share some of what I learned with you here today. Specifically, Memorial Day is defined as the day on which Americans who died in active military service are remembered. Memorial Day was first widely observed in May 1868. That celebration commemorated the sacrifices of the Civil War, and the proclamation was made by General John A. Logan. Following the proclamation, participants decorated graves of more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers. As the years and decades passed, Memorial Day became an institution, a day to honor those who died not just during the Civil War, but in all America's wars. Over time, Memorial Day also served to celebrate those who are veterans and current members of the U.S. military. Finally, in 1971, Memorial Day was declared a national holiday. Each year, the United States celebrates this holiday, Memorial Day, on the last Monday of May. Having said that, while my research taught me a lot about the objective facts of the development and the institution of Memorial Day, I did not quickly find analysis or instruction regarding the subjective, emotional component of the national holiday. And so, I set aside my clinical research and thought about the question, what does Memorial Day mean to me? And perhaps, more importantly, what does Memorial Day mean to those whose family, whose friends, whose countrymen paid the ultimate sacrifice in service of this nation? To me, when I think of Memorial Day, one word comes to the forefront of my mind: bravery. Bravery in and of itself may sound like a fairly common word, but I believe that those we lost during the military service are among those who have truly demonstrated the ideal, the concept of true bravery. Those brave men and women were willing to lay down their lives so that people in this country can enjoy the freedoms that many, if not most, other people do not get the privilege of enjoying. The men and women who have given their lives in service to this nation are not only brave, they are heroes. When their country called, they answered bravely. No matter how they found their way into the ranks of the military, each took it upon him or herself to serve faithfully and to their fullest. To me, that demonstrates true honor and true bravery. I also believe that those of us here today who lost friends, family, or countrymen in service of this country understand that Memorial Day is not only a day to recognize that service, that sacrifice. Memorial Day is also a means to ensure that these individuals are never forgotten, and to keep their service, their sacrifice, their bravery, their honor alive in our memories and in our hearts. And so, Memorial Day is not only important for honoring today's heroes, but to solemnly celebrate those veterans of years gone by who paved the path of freedom for them and for us. In doing so, we remember the million-plus men and women who have died in American military service, the vast majority everyday heroes. They are husbands and fathers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters. They are us. And today, we remember that while their loss has left deep, nearly unfathomable holes in families, community, and hearts across this country, their courage, their bravery, and their commitment to duty will never be forgotten. In closing, I respectfully ask, as you leave here today and go about the rest of your day, to keep the fallen in your minds and their families and friends in your heart. For it is their immense sacrifice, individual and collective, that has kept our country safe and free. In doing so, and for as long as we continue, this and each Memorial Day, to honor those heroes by recognizing their sacrifices, they will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Gabby, thank you for another wonderful speech. Our next speaker is Wauconda sophomore Lucas Walsh. Lucas is the son of Joy and Dan Walsh of Dalton and is joined in his family by sisters Nicole and Lakin and by brothers Zachary and Daniel. Lucas was born and raised in the Berkshires, receiving all his education in the Central Berkshire School District. He is on the high honors list at Wauconda. He is involved with the Wauconda Drama Program and enjoys performing immensely. He would like to work with the media, namely within the news and production categories. He has experience with projects, recording, and is one of the regular announcers of the Daily Morning News at Wauconda. Lucas is currently working toward attaining skills in writing and history, adding that he has a serious interest in the world around us. His grandfather, Walter Walsh, served in the Navy Seabees, and his uncle, Dennis Crozier, was a supply sergeant in the Army. It is an honor to present Lucas Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. That was a very humbling introduction. I'd like to begin with one simple word: sacrifice. A concept known to us all, whether we have made it or has been made for us. Sacrifice is hard. It's challenging. We all might have to make it, but we truly should be thankful when others make it for us, especially when they don't even know us. And that's the theme of today. We acknowledge this sacrifice and we honor it. The sacrifice of others who had no knowledge of even our possible existence, yet they still fight for us. They still stand for us. The best way to describe that, I'd say, would be as a hero. The sacrifice is from, of course, the many men and women who have served our country. They have given their lives for the United States, whether it have been for the safety of their loved ones, their community, or the whole of the nation. They have shown great valor for this nation. This forfeiture, this giving away of one's personal safety has been prevalent in American history, essentially from the beginning. If you look at the American Revolution, so many gave their lives to secure a nation, an ideal that they believed in. They had no idea whether they'd win or not. And they did, but there's a good chance they could have lost. But they still sacrificed themselves to build a country where people could live as themselves and make their own decisions and think their own ways. This isn't where it ended, of course. This continued on with the War of 1812. Britain attempted another attack on our nation and brought our capital blazing down. Yet our military rose up to the occasion and saved our country. This has continued on as a theme throughout our country's history, whether it be Vietnam, the Iraq War, both the world wars. Endless sacrifice. It's something that's utterly bewildering to myself, to think that so many act so heroic with such good morals. It's awe-inspiring, and it builds my faith in humanity every day. If one thing is consistent in our country's history, it's that this heroism will always be with us. And the mere fact that the few examples I brought up don't even fully describe or realize the sheer amount of what our brave men and women have given to us is also amazing in itself. That is why we have this day today, to not only appreciate and to understand, but to revere what others have given for us, what others have accomplished. They could have ran. They could have given up. It's a frightening situation they've stepped in, but they stood up to the occasion. They stood strong. That's something that I truly respect. And these sacrifices were far from being in vain. In fact, they were extremely meaningful. They left a massive impact upon many things in our nation. The rights that we enjoy today and the ways we are allowed to live are thanks to these soldiers. We are able to speak and say what we like, no matter how radical, because of the efforts of these men and women. I'd like to bring up the importance of this from a certain New York governor from 1732 to 1736 named William Cosby. He was mostly known throughout history for having a not so great rule over New York during his time of governing, and those who spoke out against him or wrote political cartoons that weren't exactly in his favor often were jailed, the complete opposite of freedom of speech. There are many places in the world where people wouldn't want you to think for yourself. Thankfully here in America, because of the efforts of our military, that is not the case. They have fought for other people and their right to speak. These aren't the only rights they fought for as well. They've battled to secure our right for a religion, freedom of press, and at Alia. We can thank them for defending us, our rights, and keeping us with more security than many other places in the world. For these acts, these soldiers deserve veneration. They have shown to us that, in the face of grave danger, one can find the strength to continue on. That in a most hopeless situation, one can find hope. That even though we may differ in certain ways, such as race and religion and creed, we share a want for freedom, to protect those important to us. People who didn't know each other were able to find camaraderie. This, I feel, is a great reflection upon the human condition. Now, I don't want to make it seem like these soldiers were all glory. They were very good, but I don't think they were glory seekers. I still think of them as heroes. They weren't in it for themselves, they were in it for others. And that is also something very respectful. They fought for what is valuable to them. They wanted the best for this country. They fought for our values and to help others as the best they could. Those who have served for the good of our country and fallen in their service have not gone in vain. They have not been forgotten either. They, I assure you, have left behind a lasting and major impact on our lives. We are able to congregate here today. We are able to operate as our own people. We can protest or support what we please because they laid their lives on the line. That, in my eyes, is much more heroic than any of the actions of any Achilles or Perseus. A hero is normally defined as not someone with superpowers or someone capable of doing unimaginable things, but instead someone who faces the struggles of life head on and comes out on top, someone that we can look up to. And I feel that every last one of these soldiers were a direct example of that. And that is how I believe these men and women should be seen, as heroes. Their fulfillment of their duty has proven that, for they have been pushed to unimaginable limits and fought on. They have made one particular thing that separates heroes from the rest. Sacrifice. Thank you.
Lucas, we thank you for a wonderful speech as well. If there's anybody out there that thinks that some students don't take history seriously, well, don't come up and debate these two people because they have outstanding jobs. They gave outstanding speeches for us. They represented their families, respective schools, and community in excellent fashion. They are terrific examples of goal-oriented school and community citizens, and I am confident that your families and school personnel are proud of them today. Gabby and Lucas, on behalf of our town, we thank you and wish you the best of opportunity and continued achievement in all your pursuits. I thank the staffs at Miss Hall School, in particular Professor Rutledge, Gabby's history teacher, and Wacona, especially Director of Guidance Kathy Grady and history teacher Brian Patton for their combined interest, help, and influence in regard to speaking today, as well as what both those schools do for all of their students. Our parade marshal is Mr. Tyrone Bellinger, a native of Pittsfield, now living in Lanesboro with his wife Linda. There are two adult children, a daughter and son in the family, called Ty by everyone. He is a graduate of the former St. Joseph Central High School. In June of 1964, along with a good buddy, the late Bill Smith, they enlisted in the Marine Corps for 3 years. That Bill Smith, by the way, is the same one who was the step-grandfather of our first speaker and mentioned earlier today, Gabby Hinckley. Ty served 13 months in Vietnam in the infantry with the Marine Corps' 1st and 3rd Divisions. Organized in small unit operations, they experienced ground combat as they were responsible for detecting and dealing with enemy mines, traps, and snipers. Upon his discharge in June of '67, he was awarded the Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Ribbon, and the Vietnam Service Medal. In addition, the government of South Vietnam awarded him 2 medals for his service defending their country. Soon after his discharge, Ty gained employment with the U.S. Postal Service in Pittsfield, retiring after 37 years of service. He maintains active membership in six veterans organizations. They are the Lanesboro VFW, Dalton American Legion, currently serving as Sergeant at Arms, Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 65, currently serving as Vice President, U.S. Marine Corps League, Disabled American Veterans, and the Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania Veterans of the Vietnam War. He has organized the Color Guard for Vietnam Veterans Chapter 65, which includes participation in parade ceremonies and related events. Every May, he helps decorate graves in local cemeteries, participates in the Color Guards of Post 155 and VFW Chapter 65, which includes many funerals year-round. Ty has and continues to be a regular visitor to veterans and their families, going to area homes, hospitals, and nursing homes. He meets weekly with a group of other veterans to chat, maintain friendships, but mostly to keep current on the process of getting assistance for veterans. They are an excellent source of help and encouragement. I have been witness to how beneficial that group is to veterans in need. I note that it was not easy getting personal information from Ty. Although typical of many, if not most, combat veterans, I kidded him that I would really like to say a little more than where he lived and worked. After some prodding, he revealed to me that for several years after returning from Vietnam, some family members and friends suggested he might consider evaluation for post-traumatic stress syndrome, or PTSD. He was in denial for a very long time. About 8 years ago, he had an evaluation, believing this would put to rest the belief others were sure of, that he was affected with PTSD. He was taken aback when, after 30 minutes of evaluation, he was told he had the symptoms. Accepting the diagnosis, he submitted to treatment with successful results. Now, one could conclude that this revelation spurred his commitment to helping others, but the fact is, he was already practicing what he is well known for in Berkshire County, for doing virtually all he can to aid and abet veterans and their families. It is an honor to know this man and to be aware of his accomplishments. I add that he seeks absolutely no credit or acknowledgement for all he does. Therefore, I am proud to present our parade marshal and guest speaker, Mr. Tyrone Bellinger.
Thank you, Tom. Students, Reverend, Select Board members, and special guests, and everyone out there who took a chance on this weather to come here today. Yeah. Thank you. Traditionally on Memorial Day, we honor the deceased members who served in our country's military branches. Today, I would like to draw your attention to people that we don't often recognize. People who have family members serving in the military, and people who have lost family members who were killed in the line of service. There are three national organizations that recognize families of servicemen and women. One organization is called the Blue Star Mothers, recognizing mothers and women currently serving in the military all over the world. The white flag with the blue sticker represents the mothers of the sons and daughters who are in the service today. Another organization that began 100 years ago in 1918 is the Gold Star Mothers. This organization recognizes mothers who have lost a son or daughter while serving in the military. The symbol of the gold star in the white background represents a deceased son or daughter. However, these two organizations do not directly acknowledge the fathers and the other family members who suffer the loss of a son or daughter, brother or sister, mother or father. I thought about this, as to what we, don't recognize, and that we should recognize somehow the families. Now, I found an article. I don't do research like these kids do here. I'm not that well. But anyway, I found an article about, and I'd like to read it to you, a VFW life member and World War II veteran Herschel Woody Williams has made it his mission to establish Gold Star family memorials nationwide. According to him, to forget parents and loved ones of those who made the ultimate sacrifice would be a terrible sin. Williams, who's earned a Medal of Honor while serving in the Marine Corps on Iwo Jima with the 21st Marines, said his dedication to the cause began with a visit to the Senior Citizen Center in West Virginia, where he recognized Gold Star mothers for their sacrifice. After it was over, a gentleman walked up to him with tears running down his cheek and said, "Dads cry too." But we never mentioned dads, Williams said. Since he started doing the memorials 10 years ago, he has established 30 Gold Star family memorials in 39 states throughout the country, and in hopes to, in the next 10 years, to cover every state in the country. So again, I know it's traditional that we recognize the men and women who have passed away, but also I'd just like to remember the families who are still suffering today. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Ty, for that sincere and very informative speech. You are right. The dad should be remembered, and so should all of the Gold and Blue Star families. Ty, I want to thank you for your service to your country, your commitment to veterans. You have lived up to the expectation of U.S. Marines as well as all branches of the military, that of Semper Fidelis, always faithful. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Basango with bagpipes will now perform Amazing Grace. That was wonderful, Dennis. Thank you very much. On behalf of all families of veterans, I thank Commander Dassett for coordinating the placement of over 1,200 flags in our cemeteries. This was accomplished by members of Scouts Troop 4, who placed 780 flags in Fairview Cemetery and in this one, and by Craneville School's 4th graders who placed 476 in Ashlot Cemetery. Commander Dassett himself placed 13 in East Main Street Cemetery. Scout leaders Zach McCain and Kevin Duncan led the Scouts, and Craneville teacher Don Sickle organized the students. Grave recognition is as important to this ceremony as any other aspect, and is an arduous task, to say the least. In planning this year's ceremony, Commander Dassett noted the time and coordination involved. He suggested it was time to offer something in addition to our thanks expressed here during our ceremony. Recently, Bob presented plaques to the Scouts and students as a token of appreciation from Legion Post 155, the families of veterans, and the community in general. Following this ceremony, the firing squad will pay tribute to veterans in Ashlot, Fairview, and East Main Street cemeteries, and later they will go to Hinsdale to participate in the ceremony there. This time I call Commander Dassett back to the podium.
I felt it appropriate when I first heard this tribute to an American soldier at a function I attended, and I was given permission to download it, and so I'm going to read this, and I think it's very appropriate today, and I'm hoping you do. With permission from Wayne Storrs, as used by him in a tribute to the American soldier. The average American combat soldier is a mere 19 years old. He is short-haired, tight-muscled kid who under normal circumstances is considered by society to be half man, half boy. Not yet old enough to buy beer, but old enough to fight and die to defend his country and to protect the freedom of others around the world. He's a recent high school graduate, probably an average student. He played on one of his high school sports teams and drove a 10-year-old me-down car. He had a steady girlfriend when he shipped out, and she either broke up with him when he left or swears she'll be waiting for him when he comes home from halfway around the world. He listens to rock and roll or hip-hop or country or blues, but knows well the distinctive sounds of howitzers, mortars, RPGs, IEDs, and the cannons on an AC-130 gunship overhead. He's 10 or 15 pounds lighter now than he was. When he left home, even though he eats as much as he can, whenever he can. He has trouble spelling, and he is thankful for autocorrect when he's sending emails home. But he can field strip, clean, and reassemble his rifle in minutes in the dark. He can recite the nomenclature of every part of a machine gun or grenade launcher without error. He can use either one with great effectiveness. He digs foxholes and latrines, and he can apply first aid like a professional. He will march until he's told to stop, and stop until he is told to march. He obeys orders without hesitation, but he is not without spirit or independence. He's highly self-sufficient, and he also thrives on teams and counts on his brothers and sisters in arms to keep him safe and alive. He sometimes forgets to brush his teeth, but never forgets to clean his rifle. He can cook his own meals, mend his own clothes, fix his own hurts. If you're thirsty, he'll share his water with you. If you're hungry, he'll share his MREs, and he'll gladly give you some of the ammo if you run low in a firefight. He will regularly do twice the work and draw half the pay of his civilian counterparts, while still finding ironic humor in it all. He has already seen more suffering and death than he should have in his short lifetime. Back home at a ball game, he feels every note of his national anthem vibrating through his body while standing at rigid attention, tempering the burning desire to square away those around him who haven't bothered to stand, remove their hats, or even stop talking. With more irony, he notes that his life is now dedicated to defending the right to show disrespect to his flag and his country. He asks nothing in return or understanding of who he is and what he does for us. Remember him always, for he has earned our respect and admiration with his blood, his sweat, and his tears. To all who currently wear or ever have worn the uniform of our country of the United States of America, we salute you. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. On national cemeteries, nearly 4 million veterans from every conflict, including the Revolutionary War, are interred in 131 national cemeteries in the U.S. and Puerto Rico. The Veterans Administration has opened 19 more since 1997, and a few more are in progress. This number does not include the several hundred cemeteries on other continents where U.S. military personnel have been laid to rest and are honored today by citizens in those respected nations. In France, Belgium, and some islands in the Pacific, for example, there are both the very large cemeteries that are generally well known and visited annually by many veterans and their families. There are also many small grave sites, some with only one person who lost his life on that foreign soil. The graves, well maintained, is a lasting expression of appreciation by those citizens overseas. When grateful nations observe our holiday in their country to honor those from the United States who sacrificed for them, it is without question that this holiday should always be honored in kind here, with all the intent of the very first Memorial Day in 1868. It's an instinctive and learned obligation to never forget. With those we must remember in mind, I call on Reverend Malatesta for benediction.
Let us pray. Let us honor our veterans by finding reasons to care for one another. May we find the inspiration to build relationships rather than destroy them. May war end and healing of a troubled world take place. May we leave here today inspired with an example to serve one another. May we be forever grateful for those who are willing to give their lives in service to others, those who have fought for our freedoms. May God bless them, and may God bless America. Amen.
Thank you, Father Chris. As we near the end of the ceremony, Legion Post 155 recognizes all participants in the parade and ceremony. I'd like to mention the names of the 3 young ladies who carried the town banner. Emma Zink, Gabriella Jagello, and Zia Bailey. I don't know where they are right now. It might be hard to see them, but they did a great job. Every time I turned around, all banners were held very level and in sync, it seemed, with the great music that was provided. To Parade Marshal Ty Bellinger, students Gabby and Lucas, our gratitude. To the wonderful Wacona Regional High School Band, our local and state political leaders, John Ostrush and Dalton Community Cable for coverage, Dalton Fire and Police Chiefs Jerry Cahalan and Jeff Coe, respectively, and the men and women in those departments upon whom we depend so much. You have our thanks. To the Legion Riders for all you do on behalf of vets, the Superintendent of Public Works, John Ruffley, and staff for the excellent maintenance of our cemeteries, to Memorial Day Chairman Bob Dassett and committee for a great job organizing today. Our thanks to the CRA staff, again, for the display of flags at Memorial Fountain, all the flags along our main streets, indicating a sincere message from our community to all entering and leaving this town. To all adults who work with our youth, without whom this parade and ceremony would be sorely lacking, we extend sincere thanks. On behalf of Legion Post 155, we wish everyone a pleasant holiday We are grateful for the weather to spend with family and friends. Thank you for your attendance.